everyone, and welcome to our new releases chat. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by three fabulous ladies. We have Nadia Eide, Leah Barniville, and Elly Kake. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you ladies doing today?
Great. Yeah,
Yeah, things are great.
Anyone else having a rainy day? Like we just have a downpouring right now. Yes.
Yeah. The weather here is so strange. It was lashing rain earlier, and then it was roasting, and then now it's lashing again.
Yeah,
Irish weather.
Yeah, it's supposed to be, the whole UK is really cold, right? And like very kind of, I don't know, that's a mean thing to say, but gloomy a little bit, right? It's
a really weird summer. Like it's been so gray, like you say, and like just a bit, well, actually it's been quite muggy where I am, and then suddenly now it got really hot, and then the storms came last night, so it's been kind of a little bit crazy really this year.
Yeah, it's been crazy for us too here in New York. Have you had any flooding near you?
I haven't, like a half hour from us, not even. My husband's friend had like his car totally submerged in the parking lot. So how about by you, Elly?
I mean, it's been really rainy, but I'm really lucky. I live at the top of a very, very large hill in Brooklyn. So my poor neighbors, like a few blocks down, have not been so lucky. There's been a lot of basement flooding and a lot of cars submerged as well. But yeah, I'm glad you're safe. I'm glad all is well.
So let's chat. I know it's the first time all of us are meeting together on one chat. So why don't we start, at least from the way I see you on the screen, it's Nadia, Leah, and Elly. So why don't we tell a little bit about, some of the things that you guys have done so far in your career. So how about Nadia, we'll go with you.
Okay, so first of all, my son is talking in the background, so I thought you just add a little something there. So I come from an opera and musical theater kind of background. I went into doing concerts, in my mid-20s, and so I've been pursuing a career in doing music and releasing music. I was inspired by all the greats like Sarah Brightman and so in the past, and I really try to do something new with the classical crossover genre. I feel like there's a lot of cool ideas you can bring forth and make it a little bit more modern, a little bit more accessible, just to keep the classical crossover genre alive. I really feel I'm so passionate about injecting new ideas and new kind of a new sound to the classical crossover genre, and not just doing what everyone's done before. So that's kind of my musical style. I love mixing in because I love film music, so I use a lot of cinematic sound in my music. I love picking songs that people know and love, because I really feel like if there's a connection in a song, it just draws people in. And I love lyrics that have substance and meaning. And I love because I trained in theater, I feel like I connect a lot to, like, it sounds like an actor talking, but lyrics that really have emotion and things that I feel audiences connect with. So that's kind of what I love doing. And I was recently on The Voice in the UK this year. And so ever since then, I've been pursuing releasing a new album called Reimagined, which is why I'm here to discuss that. And it's basically that. It's basically taking really well-known songs that people know and love, and reimagining them into kind of big classical epic cinematic pieces. And I think it's a different kind of soundscape I've not heard anyone else do before. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
I love what you said, Nadia, because when the lyrics really tell a story, I just feel like you're immediately drawn in. Whereas some of the like more ambient, it's so gorgeous, but I'm not as engaged with personally. I'm not as engaged with the song if there's not like a real story behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of classical crossover music can be so beautiful, and it's so atmospheric anyway as a genre. So I really feel like it is nice to kind of actually engage the listener a little bit more. And so it's not so much, not that I'm saying that anything is like background music, but when you feel just relaxed and you can listen to a Sarah Brightman album and just, well, it depends on her album. Like the first ones were, for example, to use her as an example, were very beautiful. But then she started going a little bit more off piste with her later albums. And I quite like the kind of later stuff she did because it was pushing the boundary a bit more. And I think at the time, probably people weren't as ready for that kind of sound. But I feel like now people are really up for something new, and they like things that sound a bit different and kind of challenge them a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And Leah, we'll talk a little bit about you. You did some, I think was it your first single you did was like a Britney Spears cover that was completely new for the genre to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm 19. I am a classically trained soprano from Dublin in Ireland. I started out singing when I could talk, but I became a little bit more well known in the classical crossover world when I appeared on Britain's Got Talent in 2017 when I was 14. And since then, I've been making music, doing what I love. I love singing all types of music, mostly classical crossover and musical theatre. My love for music came from my passion for musical theatre when I was so young. And I also love singing all types of pop songs also. So I kind of love everything. And yeah, so I love, like Nadia, love bringing the contemporary and the classic together to create a whole new sound that is accessible to the younger generations, because I feel like often young people they're like scared of listening to classical music. So I try and recreate it and make something that's hip and young, make it classical and bring them the interest back to the genre. And I think so far I've been sort of successful. I think some of my friends listen to my music who would never really listen to classical music, so it's kind of a good indicator. But yeah, I love doing it, and it's really fun to experiment with all of the different sounds that you can make out of one song. You can literally change any song to any genre if you really try, I think, anyway. So yeah, it's really good fun. That's
another really good point, because we're always thinking, I have a friend that's in marketing and we're always like, how do we get the younger audience to really come into this? So yeah, I like how each of you are doing that in a different way. And I know Elly, we'll talk more about your single, but you are really combining opera and just creating this new sound. So tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll go into all the releases.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Elly, and I actually am new to this composer's space. I just released a single called I'm There, and it was my first ever kind of jump into producing and writing in a more professional way. I've written since I was 12. I was a classically trained pianist, and I was in the Chicago Children's Choir, traveling the world singing starting at age 6, and I was very, very blessed to be in a different country every summer, connecting with a new culture through music.
Wow.
So my roots are pretty multi-genre because of that. I learned a lot of world music, a lot of classical, a lot of classical. And also musical theater is I wanted to be Elphaba and Wicked for like 5 years of my life.
Yes.
Have that phase. But then I became a professional opera singer kind of by chance. I auditioned for multiple colleges in the US for classical piano, classical voice, and musical theater, and I ended up getting the most scholarship money for opera. And I figured, I love opera. I was in the children's choir at the Lyric Opera of Chicago, and I got to be on stage with Renee Fleming and Ben Heppner and all these amazing, I just don't even know. I get chills just thinking about being a little kid backstage and watching them. And so, opera had always been a passion for me. So I was like, you know what? I'll just go to school for this. And if I can learn how to sing classically, I can probably sing any styles, And it threw me into, the full, track to try to have an opera career, landed me in New York, and then pandemic. I was actually supposed to be in England and in Ireland last year. I was going to do my first European audition tour, not last year, oh my God, almost 2 years ago, in February of 2019. And I didn't get to sing a single audition because they started closing borders. And so I had to come home. And I got really sad. And then I just started writing. And I hadn't written since I was like probably 16 or 17. So yeah, I started writing for fun and then connected on Instagram with this tenor named John Risen, who is like really entrenched in the crossover world. And we thought it would be fun and a cool goal to like make something together remotely. And so we both love Puccini and La Boheme, and we decided to mash up all of our favorite Puccini arias and duets into one classical crossover duet that was kind of like the prayer, because we both really like Josh Groban, Celine Dion vibe, and yeah, so that was kind of how it started. And then beyond that, I've created a lot of music, and I've been writing kind of nonstop since I got back from Europe. And I actually have my first original album that is further pop than it is crossover, coming out in November. So it's just been a wild ride, and here I am.
So I have to ask you though, you were applying for piano, opera, and musical theater. Like that's kind of insane with all the different repertoires for each of those.
Yeah, I'm definitely a workaholic overachiever because music is just, I really, sometimes I sit and I think about like there are people who do not have music in their lives. How is that possible? Because for me, it keeps me going. And especially I think in this past few years, we can all really feel that. But yeah, I've always been a kid and a person and a soul who just needs to be doing music and making music and working on music. When I'm down, when I'm tired, it's the thing that I go to. When I'm joyful, it's the thing that I go to. It doesn't really matter how I'm feeling, it's there. So having those three things to juggle at that time actually was like very natural for me. I was just kind of like, these are the things I'm doing. I'm practicing 3 hours a day anyway, so I'm just gonna do them. Here they are, you know. But looking back, I'm sure, social life definitely took a hit, but that's okay. I'll trade it for now.
So Nadia, let's go with you. I think your first album was called Premiere, right? Is that right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
And then you've gone ahead, you had the incredible experience on The Voice. And now tell us about Reimagined.
So, I mean, Premiere was more of a kind of, at the time I was doing a lot of concerts. So I was picking a lot of songs, doing a lot of stuff basically I've done over the years, which is a lot of opera, a lot of musical theater. And so it was an album, kind of a souvenir album of just like my career so far. So it was some of the opera roles I've played and, like Queen of the Night and things like that on there. And it was kind of something I was actually pregnant with my first son when I recorded it. It was so funny. It was like 2 weeks away of giving birth, like crazy. And I was like, oh, I need to do something because I'm, like Elly, a bit of an overachiever. So I always need a project. And I couldn't just sit at home and because I couldn't travel anymore for concerts and such, because I was traveling abroad a lot. So I was like, I need to do something. And I was like, oh, well, let's do an album. And I'll just do my career so far of, songs that I perform in my concerts and things. And so I put that together. And now, since being on The Voice and things, I've always had these musical ideas that I've always wanted to do. And I've been kind of chewing them over for ages. And I think since going on The Voice, I never wanted to go on a talent show on TV, because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do the things I wanted to do and portray myself in the way I wanted to portray my music and things. And I wasn't sure how much freedom we would actually get with this kind of thing. And I know, how TV works and producers and things like that. So I was so thrilled when I got asked to audition. And I felt like the whole time the music team were incredibly respectful of what I wanted to do. I was very clear from the start, this is the kind of music I want to do and this is how I wanted to sound. And it was just, I was a kid in a candy store the whole time because you're working with some of the best MDs and musicians in the industry in the UK. So it was so fun to finally just realize all my kind of musical ambitions and dreams. So it really honed in a sense, the kind of style I wanted to do, and just see if it actually could work. And if people, I mean, it's a crazy way to do it. Like, let's go on TV and try this new sound and see how people respond. But it clearly went well. So, and it was actually funny because, you know, I had the crazy experience of being able to work with will.i.am on this as well. So, and he's perfect for this. So I was going in there very much wanting to be a part of his team, and you know, we ended up working together, and you know, he's been so instrumental in me kind of pushing this genre further forward. And yeah, so Reimagined is basically all of that. It's finally putting my ideas down and getting them done. And so I've collaborated with an orchestra, and just getting everything put together. And even one of the singles I did was collaborating with a pianist friend of mine who's incredible, like improv pianist and composer. It's my son again. So yeah, this is my second son, who I was pregnant with on The Voice. So he feels like he's a part of this album. To contribute, you know, he was like, I was there. But yeah, so you know, it's very much juggling. My life is juggling at the moment. No, so I'm very proud of the album, and you know, it's coming out now in September, and you know, I'm just really excited to see what people think of it. Okay?
That's coming out very soon. Sorry, Elly, you were gonna say something?
Oh no, I was saying he's excited too.
Born performer, right? Like, he got all this experience on the stage. So. But Nadia, you know what I loved on your Mad World music video, which everyone go check that out. But you know, you do have this lovely gown, but then you also had like the leather jacket. So I feel like it's just like little details that kind of draw people in.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I'm never want to ever be a stereotype. I think that's why I kind of like, I love musical theater and opera, but because I'm a soprano, it was very much like, you know, you get pigeonholed a lot of the time. So I always like being a bit of a rebel and just you know, adding something different to something. You know, I love being creative, and I love people. Like, it's so I love just sitting and listening to you guys talk about, like, Elly, you were saying about like music, how you just need it in your life. Like, that to me is just like, oh, it's so nice to hear other artists talk sometimes. Because a lot of my friends and things aren't performers, and so it's really refreshing to hear that. And it's that kind of, you almost need to be a bit obsessed about what you do. And I kind of eat and sleep and breathe music. If I'm not doing it, I'm thinking about it, and what else I can do, and things. And I really think this day and age, you need to be that passionate about music. Otherwise, you know, there's no point doing it, because it's such a hard industry, and it's especially music is very hard to do. So I feel like you almost need that kind of obsession of, you know. But anyway, going back to what you said, I just love adding something different. And that's just me anyway. That's totally me in the video. You know, I wear leather jackets and things, and I'm not kind of your stereotype anyway. But yeah.
And how about you, Leah? So your new single is Sigaretti?
Yeah.
So tell us about why you chose it. And
I just released Sigaretti on the 20th of August, and I'm delighted with the response I've gotten to it. It's an Italian classical cover of One Republic's Secrets, and I actually first heard a cover of it by the Piano Guys. I don't know if you know them, but they're amazing. And I came across it on YouTube, I think it was, and then I searched it up to see if anyone else had done it, and it turns out Katrin Jenkins actually covered it as well. This was a good few years back, and it was actually supposed to be my final song for Britain's Got Talent if I made it through to the final. Unfortunately, I was voted out on public vote in the semi-final, but it was ready to go for the final, and I loved it. So I kind of parked it for a couple of years then, and then I began like working in studio, working on my other songs, and then I thought, you know, what would be a good one to do? So then I brought it back, I resurrected it, and we started from scratch. So I wanted to put my own stamp on it. I didn't want to do a copy of someone else's songs. I love doing that. I really don't like carbon copying other people's music. I like to add Leah to everything I do. So I tried my best to do it, and I'm really happy with how it's turned out. And I think what is so nice about this song is not only the melody is beautiful, but also the lyrics, the English translation of the Italian lyrics. They're gorgeous in both English and Italian. But basically what they mean is it's like talking about stepping out of the darkness of your current life and finding a new path for yourself, and trying to bring that back, the color that you once had in the past, into your current life. And it speaks of like the boundaries in your life that prevent you from feeling a fulfilled life. So I just thought that was a really nice message, because I am the type of person who likes to take leaps of faith in hope that it will benefit my future. So I just thought I could really relate to the music and to the lyrics. So I just thought it was perfect for me.
And tell us about where you did your video, because you have a gorgeous video that goes along with this also.
Yes, so I actually recorded a video very locally, which I was delighted to do. Given COVID, we were kind of not restricted, but I wanted to keep it local. So I got in contact with one of the venues down in Slane, and my recording studio is also in Slane, so it was all very localized. It was brilliant. So I got in contact with the venue, and they were delighted to have me in, which was amazing. So we got planning. I got down to visit the venue before the day of filming, and I was just like, oh my god! I was like, I want to live here. Like, this is so cool. So yeah, that's kind of how it went. And we got in, we recorded, and it all went perfectly. And then I saw the photo. We did a photo shoot and video shoot, and I loved everything. So I was like over the moon with everything.
Is that where Celtic Women did their special too? Is it the same poem?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Well, actually, I couldn't tell you 100%, but I don't think so. This is called the Mill House. That was the name of the venue, and it was amazing.
You have so many gorgeous spots in Ireland. I'm just putting them all together.
Yeah, we really do. We're blessed. We're blessed with locations.
Elly, I know we talked a little bit about, the goals for the piece that you created with John, but tell us, during quarantine, how are you guys doing this? Is it Zoom? Are you sending each other how are you sending those ideas back and forth?
Yeah, so it was kind of really different than I mean, the thing is, I don't have a reference for this because I hadn't been doing this before. So like, to me, it's normal now, and this is how I've worked with my record as well. But basically, we were kind of just always on text with each other. For the most part, for this single, I did the writing and producing. And so it was a matter of me creating things and trying out ideas and then bouncing it out and sending it to John. And then he would react and say like, oh, what about this lyric here? Or like, oh, like, what if the key change happens at this moment and things of that nature. And then I would try something different and send it again. I had never written for a tenor voice before. So the first version I sent him was just like really high for him to sing. So there were a lot of transpositions that happened, and I learned a lot about the tenor voice, which I needed to do. So this is good. But yeah, it's kind of amazing to me that, to this day, John and I have still not met in person. We still have not. I mean, him and his wife Jillian have been in New York a few times, and we've tried to make it work, but with audition schedules and things, it can get a little crazy. But it was all via text message, and then just emailing files back and forth and listening. And it was, I actually am very grateful that it happened that way, because I think, and there's value to this, like when you're in a room with someone and you're in a creative flow and you're like, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, it's very exciting and you can find really cool things that way. But I also think that there's a lot of value to being forced to slow down and being forced to kind of really sit with something and really listen, and like listen like 4 times and then be like, oh, okay, I think actually this is the choice that I want to make, and I think another beautiful thing about this for me was not being in a vacuum, having John to work with and bounce ideas off of, not being alone with the music I was creating. And like, don't get me wrong, I love to create stuff by myself too, but having a sounding board and having someone to volley with was really, really valuable in the creative process and in the way that this track developed from day one. But yeah, so that's kind of the how of what we did. But I also just wanted to say, like, my heart is like so full right now to be on a screen with 2 women who were in like a classical vein and decided that we were like done always just being told what to do. Like, I think that that's so beautiful that there, are so many of us out there like doing the amazing thing of saying, I love this art form, I love these traditions, and like, and then, because I think that especially in the operatic industry and the musical theater industry, it's kind of like what we were speaking about earlier. It's very easy to get kind of put in a box or pigeonholed into like, okay, you're the blonde, blue-eyed person that is going to fit this role and go do this job and check these boxes, and that there's more to all of us than that. And I think that that's super beautiful, and I just wanted to share that, like, I'm really grateful to be here with you guys today and to like see that.
Shining in the light,
today, and I don't know where it was, like from the Guardian UK, it showed up something, and it was like someone was talking, and I think it was a concert violinist maybe, and she was saying, oh, it's great that people get to hear real music. And I think like things like that, it's not great for the listener to hear, because it's like, so all the other music I listen to is not real music. And of course we value classical music. I think it's very important, but I think each genre is also important too. We have so many incredible innovators in jazz, in Broadway, like all these things. So I like what you said with the and, it's bringing everything together. It's not one is superior to the other,
Yeah, well, and like, the way that expresses through each of us is going to be so different. You know what I mean? Like, for me, I have a pretty alternative indie kind of vibe with a lot of my other original stuff. And so, but my classical training is entrenched in that just because it's who I am. You know what I mean? And like, so each of us has that different thing to offer, and like creating this rainbow of different options that fall under this umbrella is just, I think it's so important for the art form to just keep going.
All right, guys, so now I'm going to ask you about the music business side. So we all have to do that side as well. So if you can all let us know, like, one kind of thing you've learned from releasing. Like, I know for me, I heard recently that Fridays are supposedly the best day to release songs. So tell me, like, what little tips that you've learned over the course of releasing music.
Will I start?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
So I think the best piece of advice anyone's ever given me, and that I would ever pass on to someone, is to pick your songs or pick what you're going to write because you love it, and don't let anybody tell you that you have to change something if you don't want to change it, because I've heard so many horror stories about people who have been led down a road by even their producers. Now, hopefully, or thankfully, I've never been, this never happened to me, but I've heard so many stories of people being dragged down a road by a producer or multiple producers that they didn't want to go down. And I think every time you release music, you're releasing a piece of yourself. And if your listeners find out that what you're releasing isn't true to you, then they'll never believe anything that you release again. So I think it's really important to stay true to yourself and only release what you love and what you would love to listen to yourself. I think that's the best piece of advice I can give.
That's great, Leah, because I think especially in school, when you like have the sets you have to do, right? So like you have so many art songs, so many German, yeah. So, and then like I would find myself, when I'm doing a concert, like, okay, so I have to include these. And I'm like, do I actually like this piece at the end, right? Do you actually have a connection with it, or is because I should be doing this? That's
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I don't think you should ever do something.
On that note. Sorry.
Sorry.
No, I totally agree with that. And also like it, because I feel like in my early 20s, I was very like that. I mean, like I used to have a manager at that time, and I would, it's about working with somebody and being very clear from the start what kind of music you want to do, and not to be just led down a certain way. And because a lot of people have opinions in the music industry. And I guess my point would go along with yours, is to say that, don't be afraid to do things yourself. And, you don't need a producer, you don't need a manager, you don't need all of that. Like if you're very clear on what kind of music you want to do, sometimes you're better off just doing it yourself, and don't be afraid to do that, because a lot of people release music now. In this day and age, it's very easy to get online and to go through a distributor and just to do all that. Like I literally do my music videos. I do I get some photographers to do photography and things for me, but I edit things, I comp my vocals, I go to a studio and record them, but I take care of everything. Like all the arrangements I literally do, they do exactly what I ask them to do. So, and I do feel like sometimes there's a lot more freedom in doing that. And it's so liberating. I guess it's going back to my point before, like we were saying, like Elly was just saying that, like, stepping out of something. And it took me a long time to, because when you are, a professional kind of actor, opera singer, musical theater performer, it's very hard to kind of get stuck in this like world that you have to go down a certain path. Like, oh, I've got to play Cosette, then I'm going to play Christine, then I'm going to go do Zerlina, and like I have to fit in my Fach, like my voice type. And it's so easy to get stuck, especially in the opera world. It's like you really get labeled, and people look at your CV and go, oh, you've done this role, therefore you'll get this role. And it's very hard to kind of convince people that you're multifaceted in a lot of ways. But in the music industry, if you're doing it yourself and you're doing things, and you could be so much more bold with your choices. But I guess it's having that courage as well. It's like, so yeah, my point would kind of be alongside yours is, yeah, don't be afraid to do things yourself. And because you will ultimately kind of get the result that you want, rather than just, going along with someone else's idea of what they think might be popular, you know. Yeah, because if you like it, you know, people are bound to like it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So Nadia, you get the raw wave files and you just like edit them at home then for all your vocals?
So comping is when you go to a studio and you do several takes, and then you pick out the best bits of your song. So I'll do a raw take of like all the different bits. So I've got all the software. I'm in my studios now. I have like a whole setup, and the engineer will send everything to me. I'll check it over. I'll edit it, and I'll send it back to him, and he does the final mix. So I'm very, very like set on what I want, and I make sure I get what I want rather than somebody else mixing everything for me. So yeah, but that's just me being a geek. I'm asked to do that.
You're dead right though. You are honestly, if you can have, you can do everything exactly how you want to do it. And it just saves all the forward and back as well, to be honest, between two people. So that actually makes perfect sense to do it that way. Fair play to you.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. And I also think, like, for me personally, as a soprano, I do have that stereotypical control freak streak. And so being able to, like, you know exactly which take you want and that it is actually in the final is like so valuable for like peace of mind. But I think that the thing that I would probably add, and this is just like raw, vulnerable, personal based on my experience yesterday, because I just released my first single from my record, Nothing I See Means Anything, on the 7th. And it's called Are You Ready? And it's the first thing where I'm literally the executive creative producer for the full record and like orchestrated everything. I have a whole team that I needed to delegate things because it's a large project. But something that I have learned the hard way yesterday is like staying connected to the why. Like why you're releasing this, why you chose this song, why you wrote this song, why this lyric, why this record, why are you offering it? Because yesterday I got so obsessed with Spotify stream numbers. It was so unhealthy. I was just like, how many people are listening? How many people are watching? Like, are people paying attention? Is it resonating? You know, and of course, you know, it's important to care that our audience is resonating with what we've created. But at the end of the day, I had to come back to this place of like, Elly, like you made this as an offering and it's gonna find the people that need to hear it, and trusting and having faith in that. And I think that that's a really challenging thing when you're a creator of something, once you let it go, to kind of really let it go, and to have that trust and that faith and that remembrance of the whole point. And I got lost yesterday, so my advice would be to not do what I did.
I think that's really great, Elly. Yeah, I know it's very easy to get caught up with trying to reach certain numbers. But yeah, I love what you said there about it reaching the right people. That's where it's going to count. So thank you, ladies. This has been awesome. I'm just going to end it with some like funny questions, rapid fire questions. At least I tried to make them funny. So let's see. Okay. So what is your favorite piece of clothing? It can be everyday or performing.
I'm gonna start. I think heels of any sort, because I'm 5'2", so I need a bit of extra height. That'll be my favorite.
Oh, I love a good sparkly gown. I think there's something special about, maybe that's just me being a soprano, but I love like big dresses and like, you know, yeah. So I love putting on that, like every time there's like a concert or something, because, you know, I just wear my normal clothes, like I rip jeans and stuff. But so it's nice to kind of put on a gown, and it really just like, you know, sets the scene. And I love a bit of drama. So the bigger the dress, the better.
I love that. You're making me want to change my answer. I love sparkly gowns too. But first thought was during quarantine, because I just never left and I was always, teaching lessons on Zoom or writing in the studio. I had a really hard time getting out of my pajamas. And so, in order to feel like I had work and feel like things were special, I bought myself this pair of like tiny like boxer shorts that are bright silver, like metallic silver. And no one could ever see them in any meeting. I'm not wearing them right now. I wish I was so I could show you. But no one could ever see them in any meeting. But just wearing them would make me feel more like flashy and like things were okay. So I'd say that's my favorite for right now.
That is brilliant. Okay. Do you guys have a favorite season?
Yes, my favorite season is summer by far. I think it's because we get such harsh winters in Ireland, and like winter is from October to March, April time. Like we have a long. It's not technically obviously, but the weather is freezing all year basically. So I love summers. Even though our summers aren't really that warm or great at all, to be honest, it can rain all summer. You don't know what you're going to get, but you have the best chances of it being nice, and I love hot weather, so summer's my favorite.
Oh yeah, I would say winter originally, because I'm from Scandinavia and our winters were so nice, and I loved like when it was dark and snowing and cold and like really cozy. But since living in the UK, I've been living here for 12 years, and winters here are not good. They're kind of maybe similar to Ireland, where it's just very grey and just very kind of, it's mild all the time. And so I really like autumn. I think that's a really kind of cozy time, where the leaves change color, and it's just a bit kind of, yeah, it seems like right now we're having kind of an Indian summer. And that's always nice, but I love it when it gets a bit colder and the nights get a bit darker and things. But I think that's just my Nordic roots coming out.
Yeah, I definitely think autumn for me too, but I think it's like right now, like that transition from summer right into September where it's getting like, in New York at least, it's like 60s, 70s and you're not sweating all the time anymore, but you're not putting coats on either. And there's like a breeze, like I really like that transition.
All the pies with autumn are awesome. I'm here for. I don't know if you guys do so much in the UK with like the apple pie and the pumpkin pie. Is pumpkin pie a big thing over there? No.
It's not in Ireland anyway.
No.
Really, no. Apple pie would be.
They really like pumpkin spice latte. So every time it's autumn, everybody in the UK is like going around with their like Starbucks, the flavoring.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, as far as food, do you prefer savory or sweet? And someone keeps calling me, sorry.
That's a very hard one. I don't think I could choose. I love food. I eat everything. I am the least fussy person ever, and I love anything spicy. So I think I'd have to go with savory. If I had to choose one, I think I'd choose savory. I love anything spicy. Love all spicy food.
Yeah, I agree with the savory thing. I'm never a dessert person. Like, and people always get really shocked. People are like, "Oh, do you not want dessert?" I'm like, "No." I'm such a savory person, I think. But I really like pick and mix, like sweets. But I don't eat them very often anymore. I used to eat a lot when I was a teenager or when I used to be a dancer. But I definitely go for the more savory route now, I think.
I have a huge sweet tooth. I'm obsessed with chocolate. I love chocolate, and I always have. My great grandma and I used to joke that we were chocoholics, and I don't think that's ever going to change. So I'm sticking with sweet.
No, it's good though for me. Like I like to have savory, then sweet sandwiched in the middle, but then I have to end with the savory. It's just like,
Really, that's really interesting. That's interesting. That's a good idea.
because you can't end with the like. If I end on the sweet, it's kind of odd, but yeah, to have it in there is good.
That's hilarious. Dark chocolate though is like somewhere in between. Like I really like dark chocolate. We're talking about chocolate.
I love dark chocolate.
That's like, yeah, that with a glass of wine, red wine, and some dark chocolate. That's it. That's what's going on.
I don't know if any of you guys read Anne of Green Gables growing up, but she was like very obsessed with, creating a different name. So if you guys had to change your name to anything, what would it be?
Like our normal names.
Your normal, or let's even give you a stage name. Why not? Let's see what your fancy stage name would be.
Oh, I don't know what my stage name would be. I'd probably be Leah. I don't know.
So I can answer this one because I actually just did it.
Oh, okay.
So
Wow.
yeah, like my full name is Elyse Kakacek, and for all my opera stuff, that's what I normally go by. But with this new record, it's so not that I have a new name, and it's Elly Kake. My whole life, my friends and family have called me Elly. My mom was like, you're not serious enough to be an Elyse all day, every day. And then actually the story behind Kace is really funny because it's actually, it was my papa's name. His full name was Kakacek, but he was actually a professional wrestler on TV in the 50s. We have all of these photos of my papa wearing like a Speedo with like a handlebar mustache, and like oh my gosh, it's so funny. It's not even, yeah. But his name was Johnny Kace. He passed on when I was 3 or 4, but so I kind of added that at the end of Elly just to kind of, give him a little nudge. He was a huge character. He like on purpose would put 4 different size tires on his truck so that when he drove down the road, it was like going like this. And
Wow.
yeah, he was a huge character. So yeah, Elly Kake, that's mine.
I love how the performing runs in the family.
That's like the best story ever. How can we ever top that? I think like these name things are really funny because at drama school, like everybody went through this phase where they were like, oh, they're going to get a stage name or something. And a lot of people actually ended up changing their name. And I thought that's such a shame because now I'm really confused when I'm like, like a friend of mine was called Adam Green and he changed it to Adam Anderson. And it was just like, oh, and I refer to him as like, what was it Green or Anderson or what was it now? And I'm like, and there's so much identity in your name. I think because I was toying around with like, because my surname's Eide, which is a Norwegian name, and a lot of people mispronounce it. So I feel like, yeah, maybe I should have changed my name to something easier. But then at the same time, some people were like, it's really cool to have a name that's a bit different because people will remember you, if it's not just your standard. But maybe I should go for something flashy instead, like, Mercury, like Freddie Mercury, a name that's memorable. But yeah, I guess it's just having a name that's easy, short, and memorable. Yeah, I don't know what I'd change it to though.
Yeah, I have no idea what I should do, but I completely agree with you there.
No, when you said with friends changing their name, so I have a friend and I was introduced to her as Latoya, so I always call her Latoya, but she changed her name to Kay. So now it's kind of odd because I'll be like, this is my friend Latoya, and then she'll be like, hi, I'm Kay. And it's just like, feels like people are looking at me like, what's wrong with you? But yeah, you get like that little confusion sometimes. But I like with Elly, yours, that's actually a nickname you've been using your whole life. So it's like, it's very true to who you are.
And you know what, the spelling of Elly, well, I don't know about in the US, but over here, I think you spell it Elly, would I be correct?
Yeah,
that's really unusual. That's really cool. I love it.
Actually, in the US, it's usually IE as well. People always but my mom was an English major, and so my name Elyse is spelled in the Old English spelling with the Y. So she just kept it for the nickname too.
It's beautiful. I love it.
Thanks.
So now, ladies, what is the biggest misconception about you? Maybe this is more deep than fun, but
this is very hard. I actually don't know.
I was like unmuting myself. That's really hard, but I think God, it's like, what do people think of me, really? I guess when maybe all of us have the same problem is like people think that sopranos are a certain way or something, and or that your music should be a certain way because you're a soprano, or and it's easy to kind of just think people are one thing. So I guess in music especially, it's good to be aware of how people perceive you anyway, and try to do something that's not your obvious thing. It just not making sense. But I think like also maybe people think I'm very serious when they look at my Instagram or something, or like, but actually I'm quite a laid back person in real life. And I've got these guys, so a lot of the time I'm like a mum of two now, God.
Speaking baby language.
Yeah, literally. So maybe that's what people don't see very often, but that's kind of my reality 24/7. And like the music people see on Instagram and stuff is like, my music and my, so maybe you wouldn't get the full kind of picture of who I am, I guess. So I guess a misconception is that, people are very, when you put music out there, that you're very kind of put together and very kind of serious or whatever. But actually, the real Nadia is very kind of, I work very hard. That's because you have to, and you have to kind of prioritize your time a lot more. I feel like I'm much more efficient now. But yeah, I guess people don't see that side. So maybe that's a misconception. I don't know. I've never really had a problem with people thinking I'm something weird, or I don't know, or maybe I'm not aware.
How about you, Elly?
The thing that keeps coming into my mind is just from my experience. I don't know if this is like a direct answer to the way you framed the question, but it's been my experience to be underestimated often, especially in a classical space. And it kind of speaks to what we were talking about before, where it's like, okay, you're the soprano and you're going to show up and check these boxes. But I don't know, something that has been really beautiful in working on I'm There and in working on my new record has been this kind of opportunity to kind of showcase that I can do a lot of stuff, and like I can do it well, and I'm not just another face in an audition room, or another face on a stage, or another face on Instagram. Like I'm a person with really valuable things to offer from my experience, and hopefully, hopefully inspire and give something to someone else, and that there's a place for that, I think, for all of us, and there's room for that, for all of us to be that. I think that that oftentimes when you're a performer, it can come across as that's all that you are. But I think that something that's shifting that I'm really excited about in our general kind of culture is this idea of a performer as a whole person, and that who that whole person is actually the important part. And like, so like, you with your kids, and, you with like all the, food you want to eat and all of that, like that's something that's important for audiences to see, and to be like, oh, like that's a person like me, and that person also moves me with their voice and their music and these things. And so yeah, I think that's kind of where my mind went, is just this thing of like being underestimated, and then getting to kind of show your true colors and be your whole self, that I think is really beautiful. And I think, as I don't like to like pull this card or anything, but I think as women that's a really bold thing to do, and it's with the history of how women have been treated in the world, it's kind of a big deal, to really.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, because actually I think that's something we can all relate to and resonate with, because it is like that, especially in our industry. It's very hard as a woman, especially, to kind of come forth, even when you've got kids, to say, I'm a mother. And a lot of people keep it from people, but, for fear of being judged and for fear of going, oh, you're not up to the task, or so on. I think every workforce has it, but as a performer, as a singer, and, you're right about that sharing. It's brave at first to kind of, you have to step out of that and not be worried about what people are going to think, and to be able to share that. But that judging, even, like you're saying in auditions, I think I kind of got sick of that feeling of, I still do auditions now and then, but I got sick of just doing that, because your value and your self-worth is very much tied to what you do. And if you do well and you get jobs and so on, and it's very hard to kind of almost feel like you need to convince people in an audition space, because it's like, they do kind of, pigeonhole you in their mind without even wanting to, and even just looking at your CV before you walk in the door. Like, it's stuff like that. It's kind of, I guess the whole thing is, proving them wrong, and trying to, just hope that somebody just, looks at you. I mean, it would be great if people would be more, accepting of everyone's, wholeness, rather than just like, did you hit that note? Did you, and of course that's important too. But also I hear what you're saying. It's like adding a different level of Eunice to roles and things like that. And that's what's interesting. And that's what makes performances stand out. And that's what stage presence is, I think. Yeah. You're born with that. You're not that. So yeah, just wanted to add that.
And I actually think that a misconception amongst performers, well, people who aren't performers towards performers, often is that we just go on stage and we perform and then we're done, and we don't do anything between stage, from when we walk off stage to the next time we walk on stage. They don't realize that the late nights, early mornings, long days, all the rehearsal, all the practice, all the sweat and tears and blood that you put into your craft. And I think that it's very underestimated, all the work that you put in behind the scenes, by people who don't understand. Obviously we understand each other, we understand what goes into it, but when you're talking amongst certain circles, they just kind of look at you and think, oh, you didn't work today, even though you mightn't have a show, and it might be a Tuesday and you don't have a show until the Friday, but you're still working all day long. And I think that is a big misconception amongst non-performers of the kind of artists of the world, I think.
Yeah, I before was working like one office job, and then I would finish and I'd go teach the rest of the day. And my coworkers would be like, well, isn't it nice now? Like, now you're getting off. Now you don't really have to work because it's something you like. I'm like, yes, I like it, but it's work. It's not like I'm going to having a party and just doing whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's still work, and you obviously it's something that you love. And so it's not as kind of just to work. You have to work. It's more that you want to work, but it is still work. And people don't understand that it is still such a big thing. To use
totally. I agree with that. Yeah, and even people like, when you get older and you're like, probably have kids as well, it's really hard to tell people like, actually I'm working. You spend hours on especially if you want to do everything yourself, like I do, those hours, they're not billable. Nobody's paying me to do that, but it's so essential to what I do. So I need to literally schedule hours where I'm working. But not everybody sees that as work. You're right, because it's kind of prepping for a concert or prepping for stuff. And this is something as artists we need to do anyway. And people who aren't kind of in the music industry, they probably don't understand those kind of things as much. They just go like, oh, well, you sitting at your computer, but you're not singing, so, or you're not being paid to, sit at your computer. But I'm like, yeah, this is an essential part of your craft is those hours that you put in.
Yeah, and I think because most people kind of go to work, they have their time from 9 to 5, for example, say, and when they leave at 5, they don't think about work till 9 a.m. the next morning. Whereas when we turn up at a job, at a concert or a show or whatever it is we have to do, we've been thinking about that for the month beforehand, from booking it in, trying to organize costumes, trying to organize set list, everything is so, you have to prepare so much for what we do. And I think just people don't really understand that. And to be honest, if I wasn't in the business, I always try and think from someone on the outside. I don't know if I'd understand it either. But obviously it's so underestimated, the amount of work that we do, I think. But that's kind of my take on it.
And that's why we get those requests to like, oh, you're here, you're sing something for us. Let's hear something.
Yes, all the time. And I'm like, I can't just sing. I have to spend at least 40 minutes warming up before I sing. No, I can't just pop out and sing something. And people, that's another thing people don't understand. And you know, when you go to a family event and everyone's like, oh, sing. And you're like, I've literally been singing all day. I need to rest. And it's a natural thing, obviously. But at the same time, it's like these people don't understand the amount of work I've done over the last couple of days or couple of weeks for something that I have coming up. I can't sing, I have to voice rest, or whatever your thing is, you know. Yeah.
Well, ladies, this has been so much fun. It's great chatting with you all, and we'll definitely have you on again. For now, everyone check out the Classical Crossover Discovery playlist. We'll have all of their songs at the top so you can listen and stream them there. So thank you again, ladies.
Thank you very much for having us on. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow.